Y'all, what's up, y'all? How y'all feeling today? I'm feeling good. You know, I'm out here finna talk my shit. Let's go. So let's talk about GM, right? Let's talk about the North Star engine, right? So the North Star engine, right? We all know about North Stars and how terrible they are. But actually they put out a good amount of power, you know, good amount of horsepower, good amount of torque. But I feel like GM should have never made that engine. And the reason why I say that is because GM was trying to compete with Toyota and Lexus back in the day, in the 90s, you know. Toyota and Lexus, they had a pretty good V8. I think it was the 1ZFE. I could be wrong. But they had a fully functional dual overhead cam V8. Or was it single overhead cam? I don't know. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that engine was, not only was it reliable, but it put out a good amount of power. And GM, knowing nothing about dual overhead cam engines, made a dual overhead cam engine and they engineered it horribly. You got the starter and the intake manifold, the way the oil pan gasket, the way it just wraps around the transmission. It was just a horrible design, you know. What I feel like they should have did, they should have done what they've been doing for years, right? And they should have they should have put the LT1 engine in all their Cadillacs. Like the Cadillac Elante. They could have made that rear wheel drive and kept the LT1 engine in there. The DeVille. They could have did the same thing with the DeVille. They could have put the LT1 engine in the DeVille and made it rear wheel drive. Instead, they want to trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever that phrase is, you know. They was trying to copy the Japanese, you know. The Japanese, they're good at what they do, and you know, and y'all good at what y'all were good at, you know. Y'all were good at rear wheel drive vehicles, big sedans, you know. Now I understand when the 90s came around with the emissions and all that stuff, I understand. You had to make the cars smaller. You had to make them front wheel drive, you know. So I'm not mad at that. But what I'm mad at is how y'all take a Cadillac, right? Cadillacs were like known as like large land yachts, you know. You take a large sedan and you want to make it front wheel drive, you know. And now, if you look at it, like, if you try to buy one, don't nobody want that bullshit. Don't nobody want no Cadillac Elante. You know, don't nobody want no DeVille from the 90s. Now, if GM would have made them, like I said, if GM would have dropped the LT1 in those cars, right? If they would have dropped the LT1 in the DeVille, in the Seville, in the what else? What else am I missing? I know I'm missing some other stuff. Like I said, the Cadillac Elante, you know. If they would have, okay, look, the Oldsmobile Aurora. Man, I feel like, me personally, the first gen Aurora, it had potential. It was a good looking car. If GM would have dropped the LT1, made that boy rear wheel drive, man, the value of that car today, man, that would be one of the most sought after cars, I feel like. Because you got to think too, it was on the same platform as the LeSabre and the DeVille. Is that the H-body, I believe, and the Bonneville? Bulletproof platform, so they can hold up to rust and all that, you know. Instead of that short star, that North Star bullshit, man, GM could have, man, them was a good looking cars, I'm not gonna lie. And then you have an LT1 under the hood, man. You know how many sleepers and yeah, I feel like GM fucked up with that. with that North Star and Short Star bullshit. Because GM, you know, they were really good at building pushrod engines, you know. They wanted to be something that they're not, you know. And building engines, they take time, you know. If they wanted to jump into the dual overhead cam, I feel like they should have built they could have built a V6 single overhead cam first. Start off small and then work your way up, you know. Because the North Star, like I said, it has so much potential, but that's like, I just feel like GM, they rushed it. You know, you can't rush perfection. In life, sometimes you gotta take patience, you know. Let's talk about the 200 now, right? So the 200, or should I put this in another video? You know what? No, I'm gonna talk about it here. So the Chrysler 200, right? So we all know it started off as the Sebring. You know, it worked its way up to the 200, you know. And to be honest with you, Sebrings, Stratuses, they were all trash, you know, to begin with, trash. But it was something about the last gen, okay, you can call it the second gen 200. It wasn't a bad looking car. That car had potential. It could have been what the Neon was. You get what I'm saying? Cause Chrysler already had, the Hellcats. You know, they had the 300s had their thing. You know, the Scat Packs, the Hellcats or whatever. But I feel like the 200 could have been like the Neon with the SRT. You know, it could have been that, and they could have even added another trim. You know, the reason why I say it's perfect for the SRT trim is because the Neon was small, you know. I feel like the 200 could have been a modern day Neon, you know, because nowadays, you know, compared to the 90s, the 80s, let's say the 90s, cars are getting bigger, right? The 200 could have been the bigger Neon, you know. Look, y'all could have slapped all-wheel drive on there. You know, you already had the Pentastar. You know, they dropped the Pentastar in there. You know, imagine, I don't know if they would put the Hurricane in there, but turbochargers or something. Throw a turbo on there, supercharger or something, and you could have just kept the 3.6 Pentastar, and y'all could have just threw like a supercharger on there or a turbocharger, put all-wheel drive on there, and slap the SRT badge on there, and that 200 would have been, you know, it would have been cool. But at the same time, I do understand that the platform that it was on, I already knew that transmissions were bad, the electrical gremlins, y'all know what I'm saying? I know those were pretty bad too, so Chrysler would have had to work that out. But from my understanding, I heard that platform was rushed out, and that goes back to what I was saying. Things take time. A lot of times you gotta plan, you know. But yeah, it was so much potential with that car, you know. But hey, I'm gonna throw something else in here. I'm gonna throw a bonus thing in here, right? What if Stellantis brought back the Aspen, right? And they made it, let's say, like an inch taller, 2 inches taller than the Escalade, 2 inches wider than the Escalade, and 2 inches longer than the Escalade. And they just made it more luxurious. Do you think something like that is worth them bringing it back? Just think about it though, right? Like a giant Durango. Just a thought. I mean, we already got the Wagoneer, but shit. But anyway, y'all, you know, That's all I really wanted to talk about today. Yeah, till next time.